Welcome to my channel. Today, we delve into a spine-chilling case fueled by envy and insatiable greed. It's a story where potent, dark emotions lead individuals down a grim path of crime, mixed with unbridled lust and an obsessive need to control others. These feelings can forge a horrifying, lethal intent. It becomes even more sinister when such emotions secretly fester within a family unit. Our narrative unfolds in a peaceful Sydney suburb, revolving around the Lin family, a seemingly harmonious and large household. Their story spiraled into one of the most infamous and bloody crimes in Australian history. The complexity and duration of the investigation into this crime are noteworthy, as the perpetrator grew confident in escaping justice. His meticulously crafted and brutally executed plan was nearly flawless. However, it was a minor, overlooked detail that eventually led the police to the breakthrough they desperately needed. Let's delve into the beginning of this saga, exploring how a cocktail of greed, envy for others' success, and corrupt passion can drive someone to madness, transforming them into a monstrous figure who didn't even spare children in their rampage. The Lin family's tale is a grim portrait of love, ambition, and tragic demise. Min Lin and Yunli Lin's love story began in the late 1980s during their college years at an Australian university. Both natives of China, they had emigrated separately to pursue higher education. Lily through an exchange program, and Min, who was 2 years her senior, remained in the country for a professional internship after completing his bachelor's degree. Their paths crossed in a university corridor, leading to what they later recalled as love at first sight. Sharing common roots and dreams, both felt like outsiders in a foreign land, but were united by their aspirations to start a new life in Australia. After graduation, the couple married and settled in the picturesque and tranquil suburb of North Epping in Sydney. Their love blossomed into a large, tight-knit family, deeply connected and committed to each other. In August 1994, they welcomed their first child, a daughter named June Brenda Lin, who mostly went by her middle name, Brenda. Henry, their son, was born in 1997, followed by the youngest, Terry, in 2000. Entering the 2000s, Min and Yoon decided to embark on a business venture, opening a small newsstand. Their dedication transformed this modest start into a thriving news agency with a publishing arm on Rose Street. The Lin family's business flourished, enabling them to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle with a spacious home, a luxury car, and prestigious private schooling for their children. Min focused on business affairs while Yoon dedicated herself to homemaking and nurturing their children. In their community, the Lins were well regarded for their hard work, kindness, and philanthropy. They were known as exemplary, caring parents and never engaged in conflicts. Brenda, their eldest, was a standout beauty and an excellent student with a compassionate heart for animals. The boys, Henry and Terry, were energetic and sports-loving, sharing a passion for soccer. The siblings shared a close bond, almost inseparable from each other. As the Lin family settled in Australia and their financial prosperity grew, they began inviting relatives from China to visit, live, or even stay permanently. In the early 2000s, Min's parents were the first to move to North Epping, living nearby and helping with the children. Min's father also worked in their newsstand on weekends. A few years later, Yun's parents also moved to the Sydney suburb, with Min and Yoon buying them a small house. Yun's sister, Irene, came to live with the Lins, assisting with household chores and the children. By this time, the Lin family business was generating substantial income, reportedly nearing $1 million annually. Their venture wasn't just a shop or publishing house. It had become a local hub where people gathered to read and discuss news over coffee. Towards the end of 2007, Min Lin's younger sister, Kathy Lin Nei, and her husband, Leong Bin Robert Z, also moved to Australia seeking better opportunities in the bustling city of Sydney. They had visited relatives in Australia before and briefly lived in Melbourne but returned to China. This time, they were determined to settle in Australia permanently. Robert, a former successful ENT doctor in China, decided to switch careers and try entrepreneurship. The Yi family opened their own restaurant in Sydney, investing all their savings, but the business struggled and soon closed. Subsequent attempts to open a cafe or snack bar also failed. Robert, lacking business acumen and financial management skills, struggled in his new ventures. Eventually, Robert and Kathy moved to North Epping, closer to family. Kathy found work, but Robert remained in a phase of self-discovery, unsure of his future path. The Lynn and Z families were bound not only by kinship but also by strong friendship. They saw each other almost daily, stayed in constant touch, and often gathered for family meals. Their last such gathering was on the evening of Friday, July 17, 2009, at the home of Kathy and Min's parents. Unbeknownst to them, this would be their final reunion. On the morning of July 18th, the Lynn family's shop, which had consistently operated 7 days a week for years, remained unexpectedly closed. This unusual occurrence raised concerns among the regular customers and neighboring shop owners. When one of them failed to reach Min after several attempts, he called Min's sister, Kathy, to inquire about the situation. Kathy, both surprised and alarmed, knew her brother would never close the shop without prior arrangements, often having their father or father-in-law cover for him. Unable to reach Min or his wife Yoon through multiple calls, Kathy and her husband, Robert, decided to visit Min's house to check on them. Arriving around 9 a.m., they noticed the family car in the driveway and found the front door unlocked, but no sign of the homeowners. Inside, the house was eerily quiet, with no response to their calls and no signs of forced entry. Concerned, Kathy ascended to the second floor, where she discovered a horrifying scene upon opening the bedroom door of Min and Yoon Lin. The room was drenched in blood, with the lifeless, mutilated body of 43-year-old Yoon Lin lying near the bed. In the adjacent room, the situation was equally grim, with 39-year-old Irene, Yoon's sister, found dead in her bed, her face a bloody pulp. Tragically, in the children's bedrooms, 12-year-old Henry and 9-year-old Terry were also found brutally beaten to death. Thankfully, Brenda, the 15-year-old daughter, had been away on a school trip and was spared from the horrific events of that night. The body of Min Lin, the household's head, was not immediately found, sparking a faint hope that he might have survived. Overwhelmed by the gruesome scene, Kathy called emergency services, hysterically struggling to explain the situation. She pleaded for medics to arrive quickly and try to save anyone they could. However, the first responders could only confirm the tragic deaths of all the victims at the scene. Following Kathy's frantic call, Robert rushed to fetch the Lin parents from their home about 10 kilometers away. When the police and paramedics arrived, they encountered one of the most horrific crime scenes they had ever seen. It was too late for any member of the Lin family. Each had succumbed to multiple blows to the head with a heavy, blunt object resembling a hammer, which was nowhere to be found. Investigators concluded that the missing Min Lin had also been killed after his body was found covered with a blood-soaked blanket in his own bedroom. The inspection of the crime scene offered no significant clues. The absence of the lethal weapon and the fact that valuables and money were left untouched suggested that the primary motive was the elimination of the Lin family, not robbery. Initial theories considered the possibility of multiple assailants due to the unlikely scenario of one person overpowering so many. However, evidence indicated that the children were awake and had desperately tried to escape during the attack. Blood stains and splatters throughout the house, along with signs of strangulation on the adult victims, suggested a highly calculated assault. Identical bloody shoe prints were found in each room, though the shoe brand could not be identified, only its size. No foreign fingerprints were found, suggesting that the perpetrator or perpetrators wore gloves. Despite thorough investigations, there were no immediate leads or theories on the identity of the perpetrators, as family, friends, and neighbors stated that the Lins had no known enemies. The motive for the massacre remained unclear, and the estimated time of the attack was pinpointed between midnight and 3 a.m. on July 18th. Brenda Lin, the eldest and now the sole survivor of the Lin family, was on a school trip to New Caledonia at the time of the tragedy. She initially learned of the horrific incident through social media and refused to believe it involved her own family, hoping for some mistake. Her Aunt Kathy soon confirmed the dreadful news, and Brenda was quickly flown back to Sydney, where Kathy and Robert, her new guardians, met her at the airport. Moving in with them as the Lin family home was sealed as a crime scene, Brenda faced the overwhelming reality of becoming the heir to a substantial fortune, including property and the family business. As her new guardians helped her navigate this sudden shift, Brenda grappled with the loss, her grief compounded by the mysterious and brutal elimination of her family. However, being a minor and still in school, Brenda's legal guardians, Aunt Kathy and her husband Robert, were responsible for managing the estate. Brenda's grandparents also offered their support, but Kathy and Robert insisted on being her primary caretakers. Robert even threatened legal action if the elderly relatives sought custody, arguing they were too old to care for a teenager. Eventually, the matter was settled amicably, and Brenda remained with her aunt and uncle. The Lynn's shop and publishing business, which had been temporarily closed, soon reopened under the management of the deceased as Brenda was yet to take over the business operations. Robert also began actively reviewing the family's bank accounts, savings, real estate, and other assets. As for the investigation, experts repeatedly scrutinized the crime scene, meticulously documenting every detail. Despite their efforts, no concrete leads emerged. They deduced that the killer likely acted alone and entered the house quietly, suggesting either an unlocked door or that the perpetrator had a key. The killer wore size 9.5 shoes with a distinct, ornate tread pattern. The lethal weapon, believed to be a hammer, was never found in or around the house. The killer's use of gloves meant no fingerprints were left behind, and no foreign DNA was found, only traces from the 5 victims. A peculiar and significant detail was that blood stains were found on the doorknobs of each bedroom where the murders occurred, indicating the killer's bloodied gloves touched them. However, there were no blood stains on the doorknob of Brenda's room, suggesting the killer knew she was not there. As one of Australia's most high-profile cases, the tragic incident was widely covered in the media. With no substantial evidence or suspects, various improbable theories emerged. Rumors circulated about the Lynn's alleged vast fortune leading to their demise. There were theories of a robbery gone wrong and even involvement of local Chinese mafia clans. Such theories weren't entirely dismissed, given the area's history with a burglary gang. The Lynn shop had been attacked months before the tragedy, and Min had witnessed an armored car robbery a week before the fatal incidents. Although the criminals wore masks and Min couldn't identify them, it was speculated he might have been eliminated as a potential witness. Months passed with the investigation at a standstill. None of the theories were substantiated, and no suspects emerged. The robbery theory was eventually ruled out as money and valuables were untouched, and the killer seemed to have a singular purpose to eliminate the household members. Additionally, the power was cut off in the house on the night of the fatal incidents, indicating the killer knew where the electrical panel was. The assailants' familiarity with the house in total darkness suggested they had been there before and knew the layout, possibly even obtaining a key in advance. A crucial overlooked clue emerged while reviewing the perplexing case details for the 100th time. An investigator repeatedly listened to Kathy's emergency call, searching for any overlooked clue. Surprisingly, a significant hint was found in that recording. The recording captured Kathy's hysterical attempts to explain the situation, her words jumbled and interrupted by cries and sobs. At the end of the call, when the operator confirmed that emergency services were en route, Kathy unexpectedly mentioned her husband's name, adding something in Cantonese, addressing him directly. This detail piqued the investigators' interest, prompting them to translate her words. It turned out Kathy was pleading with her husband not to leave her alone in the house. This was significant because Robert had decided to fetch the Lynn parents on his own, leaving Kathy at the grisly crime scene before the police arrived. Robert's behavior seemed highly suspicious. 5 people had just been brutally taken away in the house, and the killer could still have been hiding inside, making Kathy a potential target. Yet, Robert appeared calm and simply left, as if he knew nothing bad would happen to his wife. The main suspect and new evidence emerged after several unproductive months. The police finally identified a primary and sole suspect, Robert Z.Y. It was discovered that he had a key to his brother-in-law's house, which Min had given him just in case, shortly before the tragedy. Curiously, Robert never mentioned this during interrogations, and Kathy was unaware that her brother had given her husband a key. Brenda unknowingly revealed this crucial detail to the investigators. Further investigation revealed that Robert's claim of being a successful ENT doctor was a facade. While he did possess a medical degree, he never held a stable job in the field. Rumors suggested he fled to Australia to avoid punishment for alleged bribery charges in China. In Australia, Robert failed to establish himself professionally, squandering the last of his savings on unsuccessful business ventures. After moving to North Epping, he became essentially idle, relying on his wife's income and occasional financial assistance from Kathy's relatives. Once the guardianship papers for Brenda were finalized, Robert acted as if he had inherited the Lynn family's estate. Robert's initial maneuver following the tragedy was to assert his dominance by forcing Yun's parents out of the house Min had purchased for them, even though it was legally under the deceased's name. This action didn't extend to Men and Kathy's parents, who remained in their provided home. Investigators speculated that Robert was driven by intense envy of his wife's more prosperous and successful relatives, formulating a long-standing scheme to take over their substantial assets. While living under the same roof as the perpetrator of her family's massacre, neither Brenda nor Kathy was perceived as being in immediate danger. Brenda was unaware of the true nature of her cohabitant, while Kathy was instrumental for Robert to retain control over the family's assets. The lack of concrete evidence, however, initially prevented the police from arresting Robert. The investigation team secured permission to install hidden cameras within the Z household, aiming to capture the evidence needed to prove Robert's involvement. The pivotal moment came unexpectedly during an interrogation when Kathy mentioned her husband's preference for a particular brand of shoes. Several years prior, Robert had purchased 2 pairs of sneakers from a limited edition series. He had discarded one pair, but the other was meticulously stored at their home. Notably, Robert wore size 9.5 shoes, the same size as the shoes linked to the crime scene. The breakthrough occurred when hidden camera footage captured Robert deliberately destroying the box containing these shoes. This led to a search warrant for their home, where investigators discovered a new pair of size 9.5 sneakers with a tread pattern matching those found at the crime scene. Moreover, a smear of blood-like substance found in his garage was tested and confirmed to contain the DNA of all 5 Lynn family victims, decisively connecting him to the murders. This accumulation of evidence led to Robert's arrest, providing the concrete proof required for legal action. In May 2011, 2 years after the murders, Robert vehemently denied any wrongdoing, asserting that the blood found was incidental and unrelated to the crime, and that the sneakers were a recent purchase. While awaiting trial, Robert was detained in a prison where he unknowingly shared cells with informants. During these interactions, he confessed to meticulously planning the murders, purchasing the lethal weapon from a store without surveillance, and sedating his wife to keep her unaware during his absence. He claimed to have disposed of the murder implements so effectively that they would never be discovered. At his trial, despite these confessions, Robert denied all the charges. However, the only evidence against him included indirect evidence and the testimony of his cellmates. Initially, this led to a non-unanimous jury verdict, and Robert was released on bail in December 2015. The trial resumed in June 2016, bolstered by testimony from another informant who revealed Robert's inappropriate fixation with Brenda since she was 13. Confronted with this new information, Brenda tearfully disclosed that Robert had coerced her into a sexual relationship soon after she began living with them, a fact she had previously kept secret out of fear. With these revelations and the comprehensive evidence presented, Robert was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to 5 life terms without the possibility of parole, reflecting the gravity of his crimes. All his subsequent appeals have been denied. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to stay updated on new stories from around the world. See you soon and take care.